Next news. Breaking news from the White House.
I'm Gary Franchi, outside the White House where President Trump is set to address the nation on Iran. But let's talk about a Chinese billionaire with ties to the CCP who has over 100 American children born right here on U.S. soil through surrogates. And they're all automatic citizens. Now, the Supreme Court just heard arguments today that could end this insanity forever, and President Trump was right there in the room to witness the arguments firsthand. And what Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson said to defend it, you're not going to believe it. Now, listen to me. This is not an abstract legal debate. This is about the survival of American citizenship meaning something. Right now, over 1 million so-called U.S. citizens are being raised in communist China. Military officers, propaganda ministers, CCP elites, their kids hold American passports, and they've never set foot in a classroom here, never pledged allegiance to our flag. They're being groomed as sleeper assets with full constitutional rights, and cartel leaders born in California, running drug empires protected by citizenship they were handed at birth because their parents snuck across the border. The 14th Amendment was written to protect freed slaves, not to create a backdoor for foreign powers to infiltrate our nation. President Trump's executive order could finally close this loophole, and of course, the left is panicking. And speaking of foreign powers exploiting American systems, let's talk about your money, because Wall Street doesn't lose money on sell-offs, you do. They create the panic, wait for you to dump your position out of fear, and scoop it up at a discount. That's exactly what's happening right now while China games our citizenship laws. They're also gaming our financial markets. The big banks, they're not selling their gold, they're buying yours. And every time the headlines scream crisis, regular people sell. And every time regular people sell, the institutions are right there waiting with open hands. You built portfolio insurance for a reason. Don't let a red day hand it over to the people who caused it. That's why I tell people to go to nextnewsgold.com. Right now, Noble Gold Investments will send you a free 10th-ounce American Gold Eagle just for opening an account if you qualify. Real money in your hands, not Wall Street's. Go to nextnewsgold.com. Now let me show you just how deep this birthright citizenship scam actually goes. The Supreme Court is hearing this case right now, and the arguments are being made to keep the broken system. They're absolutely insane, and I'm going to show you exactly what I mean, starting with Justice Jackson. What she said has everyone's jaw on the floor. She's trying to explain why birthright citizenship should apply to anyone on American soil. Her argument? It involves stealing wallets in Japan. I'm not kidding. Watch this.
I was thinking about this, and I think there are various sources that say this, that you obviously have permanent allegiance based on being born in whatever country you're from. That's what everybody recognizes. But you also have local allegiance when you are on the soil of this other sovereign. And I was thinking, I, a U.S. citizen, am visiting Japan. And what it means is that, if I steal someone's wallet in Japan, the Japanese authorities can arrest me and prosecute me. It's allegiance, meaning can they control you as a matter of law? I can also rely on them if my wallet is stolen to, under Japanese law, go and prosecute the person who has stolen it. So there's this relationship based on, even though I'm a temporary traveler, I'm just on vacation in Japan, I'm still locally owing allegiance in that.
Did you catch that? She compared citizenship to being arrested for stealing a wallet. Local allegiance, she calls it. So if you're on vacation and you follow the local laws, that's the same as being an American citizen? That's her legal reasoning. Being subject to arrest is not the same as being subject to the jurisdiction that grants citizenship. But here's what gets even more disturbing. Wait until you see who's exploiting this. A Chinese billionaire with CCP ties. Over 100 children, cartel leaders born in California. And why? America is now an outlier in the entire world? This is the full picture. Watch.
Tomorrow, the Supreme Court takes up President Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship. The 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution reads, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens. But here's the key to that question. What does subject to the jurisdiction thereof actually mean? President Trump argues it does not apply to everyone born on United States soil, especially people here illegally. So here's the question. Does being born on American soil automatically make you an American citizen, no matter your parents' status? Let's take a look over at the wall. Let's start here with some examples of some of the types of individuals we could be talking about, like Juan Carlos Valencia Gonzalez. Now, Juan Carlos Valencia Gonzalez was born in Santa Ana, California in 1984. His parents were from Mexico. He happens to also be the stepson of El Mencho, the leader of the Jalisco New Generation cartel. And now he is reportedly leading that very same cartel. And here's the thing. He is a United States citizen by birth. And it doesn't stop there. Reports of foreign wealth being used to manipulate the system. One Chinese billionaire reportedly has more than 100 U.S.-born children through surrogacy. The idea, build a future family and a business succession plan. Some clients, by the way, request up to 100 babies via multiple surrogacies. It can cost as much as $200,000. And why would they do that? Because babies born here are automatically U.S. citizens. Also, surrogacy is illegal in China. Nearly 41% of international surrogate parents in the United States are Chinese. So why is this such a debate? Look around the world. Much of Europe has restricted birthright citizenship. Asia basically ended it. The United States, still one of the few countries around the world that sits as an outlier.
Let that sink in. Juan Carlos Valencia Gonzalez, born in Santa Ana, California, now runs a Jalisco New Generation cartel, one of the most violent drug organizations on earth, and he's a U.S. citizen by birth. Then you've got Chinese clients ordering up to 100 babies through surrogacy, $200,000 a pop. 41% of international surrogate parents here are Chinese. Europe ended this, Asia ended this, but we're the suckers. Now let's get into the actual law, because what the Constitution says is crystal clear, and it goes right back to the Civil Rights Act of 1866, the historical context that the left never wants you to hear. And watch how clear the original intent actually was.
Let's drill down into the law. This case is challenging a long-held interpretation of the 14th Amendment, with Section 1 of the amendment reading, quote, all persons born or naturalized in the United States, and this is the key part right here, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. How should the court ultimately rule on that question? We had it underlined on the screen, jurisdiction thereof.
Well, the phrase subject to the jurisdiction thereof is a clear historical meaning. Remember, after the Civil War, the whole goal was to make sure that slaves and their children were made American citizens. That was originally done by a congressional statute, Todd, the Civil Rights Act of 1866, but there was concerns that a statute would not be sufficient to last the rest of the country's history. So the decision was made to create the 14th Amendment. And the reason why that's significant is when you read the Civil Rights Act of 1866, it literally says to be an American citizen, you have to be born in the United States and also not subject to any foreign power. That language was essentially elevated into the Constitution in the form of the 14th Amendment. So today, if you're simply visiting the United States, if you sneak into the country as an illegal alien and have a child, you are still subject to a foreign power, meaning your home country. So therefore, under the 14th Amendment, you're not subject to the jurisdiction thereof, and you haven't met the criteria to be a citizen. And that's a pretty straightforward argument. But of course, there's a vested interest on the other side to say that anyone born in the United States is an American citizen. And the only reason why that interpretation has lasted as long as it has is because...
There it is. The Civil Rights Act of 1866 said you have to be born here and not subject to any foreign power. That language was elevated into the 14th Amendment. If you sneak across the border illegally, you're still subject to your home country. You haven't met the criteria. The only reason this wrong interpretation lasted this long, nobody had standing to challenge it in court until now. And wait until you hear the numbers on how China weaponized this loophole. Peter Schweitzer just confirmed something absolutely staggering. Over 100,000 birth tourism companies operating in China alone, focused exclusively on the United States. And the people using them, they're not refugees. Watch who they really are.
In China alone, we have identified more than 1,000 birth tourism companies that are almost exclusively focused on the United States. Our federal government does not track this information because there is no centralized collection of information on the nationality of parents who are giving birth. China, however, has done estimates themselves, and the numbers are eye-popping. The Chinese government gave an estimate a few years ago. Their estimate was that on average 50,000 Chinese citizens a year were giving birth in the United States or at U.S. territories like Saipan. There are others like Professor Salvatore Barbonis from Australia who believes that number is higher. He's estimated 100,000. There was a research firm in China that estimated in 2018 alone 180,000 managed to give birth in the United States. No one knows what the actual
1 million quote-unquote U.S. citizens being raised in communist China right now. And these aren't dissidents fleeing oppression. Schweitzer said it clearly. Military officers, Ministry of Propaganda officials, high-ranking CCP members, these are the establishment of our greatest adversary, and their children hold American passports. This is an invasion without firing a shot. And guess which administration opened the door to all this? Kayleigh McEnany just laid out the timeline of exactly how this happened, and it all traces back to a specific policy decision under Obama, and it wasn't an accident. Watch how they systematically opened the floodgates.
Birth tourism has been an issue for a long time, but it became even worse back in 2009 when President Obama created a categorical parole program that enabled Chinese nationals to visit the Northern Mariana Islands, a U.S. Commonwealth out in the Pacific, without vetting or a tourist visa. Then in 2014, President Obama entered a reciprocal visa agreement with China, allowing citizens of each country to travel between the two countries for up to 10 years on a single visa, opening the door even further to birth tourism. And in 2015, he changed the rules again, making birth a legally permissible use of a, quote, B visa. Now, the U.S. currently averages 33,000 tourism births annually. And in the Northern Mariana Islands alone, the total number of birth tourists is well over 1 million.
2009, Obama creates categorical parole, letting Chinese nationals visit the Northern Mariana Islands with no vetting and no visa. 2014, 10-year reciprocal visas with China. 2015, he made birth a legal use of a B visa. Over 1 million birth tourists in Mariana Islands alone. This was deliberate policy, and now we're paying the price. And finally, you got to see how clueless the liberal media is about all this. Here's Whoopi Goldberg on The View trying to comment on a Supreme Court case, and she doesn't even understand the basic facts of what's happening. This is the left's brain trust, folks.
And we just have to get to this because this is unbelievable what's going on. You know who is he's at the Supreme Court as we speak, making his case for signing an executive order that ends birthright citizenship in America.
She thinks President Trump is personally at the Supreme Court arguing the case? You see, that's not how this works, Whoopi. The Solicitor General argues before the court. Trump signed the executive order. These people lecture America every single day about constitutional law, and they don't understand basic civics. So let's put this all together, because what's really at stake here is actually everything. Now pay attention. Here's what's happening. The 14th Amendment was written to make freed slaves citizens, not let CCP military officers birth anchor babies, not to give cartel kingpins constitutional protections, and not to let foreign powers run over 1,000 birth tourism companies targeting our soil. Obama opened the door, the establishment kept it open, and now President Trump is trying to close it. The Supreme Court has the chance to restore the original meaning of American citizenship. 1 million foreign nationals raised in China with U.S. passports, cartel leaders born in California, and Justice Jackson thinks it's all fine because you can get arrested for stealing a wallet in Japan. This is the fight for what America means. And this is one of the most important Supreme Court cases of our lifetime. And the mainstream media does not want you to understand it. They want you confused. They want you compliant. That's why we do what we do here at the Next News Network, right here at the White House, bringing you the truth that they're desperate to hide. If this video opened your eyes, smash the share button, get it to everybody you know, and drop a comment telling me what you think the court should do. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit the button and the notification bell so you never miss a report. The fight for American citizenship is on, and we're not backing down. I'm Gary Franchi. Stay informed, stay free, and as always, I'll be here at the White House for the Next News Network.
The system controls information. Information control is power.
They don't want you to see this.
The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now. You know out.